Hello there, welcome to another Walker Analytics video. In today's video, I'm going to provide a tutorial on how to build a dashboard in Google Data Studio. So Google Data Studio is one of the tools that I practically use every single day. I'm in data analytics, but I specialize within digital analytics, and within my day job, I use it all the time. So I thought it'd be good to give you guys a tutorial on how to actually create a dashboard. Last video I provided an overview of Google Data Studio, so hopefully by now you have a good understanding of how it works. And in this video, I will be creating the dashboard. So before we begin, if any of you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more Google Data Studio tutorials and more data analytics and digital analytics content in the future. And drop a like down below if you found this video useful or you simply enjoyed the show. Let's begin. Great, so as you can see right now, we are in Google Data Studio, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a report, a dashboard from scratch, just to give you all the full view. So we're just going to go right in, click blank report, and the first thing that you're given is your data sources. So with Google Data Studio, you can either create to a brand new data set. So if you haven't done this before, you need to choose which data you're connecting to, so whether that's Google Analytics, Google Ads. There are quite a lot of data sets that are here. You can have manual file uploads, so you can connect to static data, and connect to BigQuery, Cloud SQL for MySQL. There's loads of connections essentially. What I'm going to do is I'm going to connect to one of my own data sources that I've used before. So we have your data sources here, and I have a data source which is connected to the sample Google Analytics data. So I'm just going to connect to that for the purpose of this dashboard. Great, so what you'll see is that as soon as you import the data source, the GA automatically brings in a table for you. So it bases it off, I believe, a random selection of dimension and metrics. So we got the data, now we can start building. And one of the things I like about Data Studio is that it is incredibly customizable. Unlike tools like Power BI and Tableau to an extent, where it can get quite custom, but I feel like in Data Studio you have more freedom to kind of make things look exactly how you want them to, because it doesn't have to snap into specific lines. You've got you've got a grid here with lots of a wide area that you can really make the shape almost any kind of shape and size that you want. So it's really free. If you're a creative person and an analyst, which I don't know if that's a rare case or not, but if you are, I think you'll enjoy this tool because you'll have a lot of freedom with your dashboards. So we can see that this is a bit kind of a portrait dashboard, and what I tend to keep it that way. And the reason being is that Data Studio, unlike Power BI, doesn't have a mobile interface, so you can't view the dashboards in a mobile friendly way. So I tend to keep my dashboards in a portrait format, because then that way, if you open the dashboard on your mobile work phone, you can scroll down and you can still read it at a decent view. I haven't had any complaints in doing my dashboards that way. I seem to think that's probably the best way to do it. But this is how it's been for me. This is how I tend to do it, so I'm going to stick to that way. So in this analysis, we're doing this for the Google. So in this dashboard, the data source that we have is from GA, and it's from the Google Merchandise store, the sample data for it. And we're going to keep to that theme. So what I like to do initially is I like to get the theme and layout exactly the way I want it to be. So you can see that there's quite a lot of themes here. I'm at the default. And because we're working with the Google store, I'm going to keep this as close to Google's use of colors as possible. So first thing I will do is I'll insert a shape, a rectangle, horizontal bar right at the top, make sure it covers the entire width, and I will enter the logo. So let's look at the Google Merchandise store. White just said it was a musical artist, then that was quite interesting. Okay, cool, and that is the logo. So let me see if I can save that image. Save it to my desktop. PNG. Cool. So now let's insert that image. I'll select the file, which I just saved to my desktop. Cool, and we can see that. So what you guys will notice straight away is that this is clearly quite hard to read. We can't actually see the logo. So there are two things that I tend to do. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll limit the rectangle at the top. So I will bring it back this way, so you have the logo there, and I'll add more information at the top here. Or we could just make it a lighter blue. And a different color here. I think what I will do is I'll copy this and I'll make the background white for this section here. So make this white. Center back. Cool. The other thing that I always tend to do with my dashboards is that I make the background a very, very light gray. And the reason being that I just think it looks a bit more professional and flush. When you have a white dashboard and you've got a lot of like white charts, it all kind of just looks a bit bland. But when you make it a really light gray and then you have the like white charts, white visualizations, it just lifts it up a little bit. So that's white, have it a little bit gray. So we'll go into the theme here and we'll just amend what needs to be amended. So the text style is fine. Component background, set that to white. Yeah, so that'll be white. Let's open this back up. And yeah, borders, I don't really use borders. I tend to leave that as it is. Accent styles, component background. Yep, that's set to the theme that I'm using. And yeah, the rest is okay. Oh yeah, and this is the component grid style. So I tend to make this also a really, really light gray as well. So it just looks a little bit more flush and professional. Okay, so we've got the Google Merchandise store here. So a typical thing that I tend to add is a date range. So we're gonna make essentially like a KPI dashboard, just the top KPIs of the Google Merchandise store. And I find it's always quite useful for your users to have a date range dimension, so that if you make this report set back to the last 7 days, 28 days by default, that they can actually go in and change date range and see the KPIs for any date range that is relevant to them. I think that tends to be quite useful in my experience. So I'll set this to the last 7 days by default. This date range chart will impact the entire dashboard. Okay, cool. So I think what we'll do now is we'll start adding some scorecards. So when I create a dashboard, the way I tend to organize it is that at the very top, I like to have, so you have the logo, the branding, so you know exactly what you're looking at. Then you have I like to tell people exactly what's happening, and we do that by scorecards. So you have the scorecards, which are all the top KPI metrics, so you know straight away what's happened, how we performed versus the previous period. And then I will then follow that on by trending charts. So we can say, okay, so what the trends been for all these key KPIs over the period. And then we get into the next section will be the granular level detail, which we'll start providing, like go into the tabular data and just providing more context to what's happening essentially. All right, so let's start with the scorecards. And I do love a scorecard. In fact, I will use let's not add data. I'll use the summary scorecards because it's just easier. It's easier for your stakeholders to read. Yeah, so you've got users. Let's keep that at that. Let's put this in the middle. It is a bit annoying that it is left centered by default. I think it's always better when it's in the middle, personally. And then yeah, top. I think I'll add more to the top, like 16. Yeah, and then make that a bit bigger. Cool. Generally, I don't really have a number of KPIs. I tried not to have too many. Like I'd never make a dashboard like 10 KPIs. I think that's a bit ridiculous. But you kind of got to keep it at a level so it's easy to understand and easy to read. So change this to sessions. doesn't really matter, but I don't use the user reporting in for UA Universal Analytics GA because it's not true. And then we'll just set this to previous period for the sake of the dashboard. Yep, so automatically, so straight away we can see that the last 7 days there were 19,000 sessions and visits to the website, and that's down 2% versus previous period. So immediately we're seeing a bit of insight, which will be useful to the webmasters, merchandisers, anyone involved in the website. Just move that over a little bit, that's annoying me. I'll leave it. Cool. So add the next KPI. So let's add transactions. Yep, so now we have the number of transactions, and there's a 0.0 there, so we'll just in fact we can just untick compact numbers. Yeah, that's 578. And then the next metric, I'm sure you can guess what that will be for an e-commerce store. Version. Yeah, so we've got sessions, transactions, conversion. And then another metric that will be useful for e-commerce store will be revenue. In revenue there. Yeah, so now we have the total revenue for that period as well, and compact numbers because that's more useful. Cool. I think we'll keep it to 4. You can of course add more if you feel like more KPIs would be useful for your team, for yourselves. But I think these are typically a good starting point. As with these 4. There we go. All right, so now we'll just like rearrange the rest and make sure they're all roughly like the same size. Just make them all a bit bigger. Cool. So we have the logo, so you know what brand we're looking at. We have the date range, and we have each KPI metric here. One thing I also add at the top is a title. So if I insert what's text, and this is useful if your dashboard has more than one page. So if you made one page that was around marketing, another page around like product performance, it's good to have a title of the page, so it just lets people know exactly what they're looking at. So we'll just call this the overview. Cool, and you just get rid of that top border. Cool, and then I'll add a subheading as well. And this is just if you need to provide more context around what your dashboard is about. And when you're creating really complex dashboards, it can be really useful for anyone who's going into it blind. So this dashboard provides an overview to KPI performance, the merchandise store. Yes, it can be as simple as that. If it needs to be more detailed, you can make it more detailed. It's entirely up to you and what your stakeholders need, essentially. So just make that a bit longer. Just fit it under there. There you go. Okay, cool. That's pretty clear. So now I will create the charts based on these KPIs, so it gives us more context of what the performance is actually like. So just copy and paste this, and I'll click here and just change it to a trend line instead. So let's just resize this. So what you can do at this point is entirely up to your preference. I think because of the size of the charts, I'll probably do 2 charts per row, and I'll have 2 more below. So yep, so that shows us the traffic over time, and this is again compared to the previous period. So you can see that there was a bit of a bump up at that period, and it went down. And this is really important context for your stakeholders, because just seeing the numbers is one thing. Like, we know we were down. So just by the the summary number here, we can see that we were down 2%. But when you give them the chart view, you can actually see it gives you more context. So if you want to drill down into why we're down, you can see that, well, we were up for the first 2 days of the week, 3 days, and then it kind of dropped off around the 24th, 25th November. So then you might want to investigate into these specific days further, and you can do that by changing the date range. So it's really important, and it's good insight to provide. So I will copy and paste this, and then change the metric, close this. So the next view was transactions, so we'll add transactions. Cool, and then do the exact same thing again. And you see we're running out of space here, so we need to extend this dashboard, make it a bit longer. So just go into layout, and I'll add another 1,000 onto the length. Yeah, that will do. Right, so select both of these, Control C, Control V, or Command C, Command V if you're on Mac like myself. Great, and we've got them here now. So now again, just do the same thing, change the metrics. And this just makes your job so much easier. I like to work smart rather than just working harder on building a dashboard. So if I can make things quicker, easier, automated, I'll do it any way that I can to save me time. Cool. So now we have more context. We have our sessions, transactions, conversion revenue, and then we have the chart view of that as well. So we have a decent understanding so far of what happened last 7 days and sort of why it happened. So now we're going to the tabular data, and for e-commerce data like this, for an overview, I'd probably provide a couple of tables. So the first one would probably be around the marketing channels, and then device behavior as well. And this is a good insight to have because it will just provide you the key information. And with this table, I will provide all the KPIs I mentioned earlier above. So we have sessions, because then you can see the impact that each channel is having to your KPIs. Great. So we can already see that the vast majority of the traffic is coming from direct, so followed by paid search, display, and affiliates. What you can do next is that we can add the comparison as well. Let's just click that in previous period. So now we can see which specific channels are causing the drop off, and we can see there was a 4% drop in direct, which is probably contributing the majority of the drop. And what you can do is you can see the actual values itself as well instead of the percentages. So if you click into the style tab and you see a show compare here, if you click absolute change, that shows you the actual numbers now. So we can see we lost 704 sessions from direct. So no doubt that's where the majority of the loss will be coming from. It does look like though this isn't just a direct problem because we've seen a little bit of a loss around affiliates as well. And paid search was flat around that period as well. So it could just be a market demand thing and not necessarily a direct thing, which direct is a channel that you have quite minimal influence on naturally anyway. So we have that. We might want to add another table around like areas of the website. So any specific pages in the website that might have dropped off, we would probably want a view on that as well. So again, we can just duplicate or copy and paste, whichever you think is best. And let's change the dimension. So we have page, destination page. If you wanted a view on like entries, landing page would be a good view, and this is quite useful for marketing channels as well, because marketing channels will send specific traffic to a specific page, and then when you look at this landing page level, you can combine it with conversion level metrics, which you can't do when you look at just the dimension page. So it really depends on your audience and what you want to do here, but for the sake of this dashboard, I will look at landing page level. And then what we can do is we can look at our top landing pages. So if we make this a bit bigger, so yeah, so this is quite clear. So we can see that, so the home page, most visited page as expected, and you can see the trends there. You can see there's a lot of pages here that got less traffic over time. If you click into this, you can make this bigger. Yeah. So you can see some of the top pages and how they performed landing page wise versus that previous period, and you can investigate a little bit further. What you can also do, if you want to actually understand the weighting of these pages or any dimension in the table, is that you can change the view to use a percentage total. So you click comparison calculation and click percentage of total. And you can choose it to be relative to corresponding data, to the data in the table, or relative to the base data, which is all of your data. 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to do it relative to the corresponding data. So if we click that, it will change sessions and make it a percentage. So we can see here that 44.8% of all traffic lands on the home page for Google Merchandise Store. You don't have to do this. You don't have to sacrifice one metric for the other either. So you can add sessions in twice, same metric in twice. And what you can do is you can have one version which is just the numeric figure, and then another which would be the percentage figure. So you could change the percentage one to read sessions percentage or percentage of sessions, depends on how you want to do it. Expand that a little bit, and then yeah, you can see that and the change over time as well, the change to percentage rate. You can also change or toggle the percentage changes that are available for your metrics. So you know that in here, when you add metrics in, and if you go into the default date range, when you choose a period to compare against, it does it for every single metric, but you can turn it off and on for some metrics. So when you go into here, you can see the columns and you can see that show compare is on. And if you deselect that, it disappears. So now we have sessions, percentage of the grand total, and then the actual numbers and the percentage change as well, which can be quite useful. Another area table that you might want to add, a final view, perhaps you might want to see how this weights up by device, and which is data that's good to know, not necessarily actionable, but can be good to know. So what we can do is we can add in another chart, and we can add in a pie chart. Just make this a bit smaller. So what we'll do is use device category, and yeah, weight that by sessions. And yep, so what you can see is that 69% of all traffic to this website is on desktop, and 29% is in mobile. And if you copy and paste this, we can then do provide us the same view for, say, transactions. See whether there's you can see that there's quite a high skew towards desktop. So you can see you get 69% of traffic goes to desktop, and 91% of the orders are happening through desktop, which means that there's a higher conversion rate on desktop than there is on mobile, and it's not flat across the two, and which typically is the case normally in retail stores that I've seen. Desktop, and not just retail stores, pretty much every online store, the desktop always has a higher conversion. And then yeah, we can add revenue finally, which of course I imagine will weight towards desktop. Yep, weight towards desktop as well. And then I guess last but not least, what we can do to kind of tie this dashboard up, just add a little bit of footer to the dashboard, so it looks a bit more corporate, more professional. Oops. Undo that. Drag that there. And what we can do is just add some text just to give a little bit of context about the dashboard and what it does and what data sources use and where it comes from, which is typically what I tend to do. So We'll use the same text just for consistency. And you might have noticed that I was having it come down a bit slower earlier. That's normally because on Data Studio sometimes it can be really easy to drag one element, especially something as small as this, but also accidentally drag something else, and then you end up just messing up the entire report. So you can add a first. So what I typically tend to do is mention the data source. So the data source is Google Analytics, and then the brand is it's Google Merchandise Store. You can mention the team or agency or client partner that have created this dashboard. So in this case, we'll say for Analytics. Cool, and that's it. It's as simple as that. So now we just need to name the dashboard. So we'll call it Google Merchandise Store Overview. And now we can begin to distribute this dashboard. So there are a couple of ways that you can distribute a dashboard. One, you can share it with people so that they can access the dashboard live themselves. And you can do this in one of two ways. You can either add them, so you can add their Gmail address, and then they'll get notified that something's been shared with them, and then they'll be able to come in and view the dashboard. And you can choose whether they can view it or edit it. Or you can create a link, which anyone with the link can actually view the dashboard. So with this feature, I'd say use it with caution. If you're going to be sharing this link with a couple of people, then it should be fine within your organization. But if this is going to be quite widespread, then you'll probably won't want to do this in case it gets sent to any agencies or the link gets shared to the wrong place. So you'll need to exercise this with caution. And of course, check with your IT department as well whether there are any data restrictions that might limit your usage of using link sharing. I know link sharing is the best way to do things like this because it's really easy. But with Google's Data Studio, unfortunately, there is no option to create the link to anyone within your organization. It's just anyone with the link can view it. So anyone on the internet can view it. So exercise that with caution. Once you've done that, you can also schedule the report to be sent out. So if you want it to be sent out on a daily, weekly basis, you can choose that time. So when you want it to begin, what date, and how frequently you want it to be sent out. And you can get it sent out to your key stakeholders, and they'll receive that dashboard whenever they please. And when they click in, they'll see it in the view format. So they'll be able to come in and they'll see the sessions, and they'll be able to change the date range and interact with that and use the standing out of the box settings. They'll be able to see the actual values for each period specified in the chart, look into the table, scroll through the pages, and even resort it so they can sort it landing pages based on transactions instead. And then see the view here, and it's all pretty straightforward from there. So this is pretty much it in a nutshell, how to create your own Data Studio dashboard. So I hope you found that video useful, how to create your own Google Data Studio dashboard. If you have any questions or anything that you want to talk about relating this video or just Data Studio dashboards in general, feel free to let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this tutorial, please subscribe to the channel, drop us a like, because it really helps this channel out and it helps us grow. So we'd really appreciate that. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on our next Google Data Studio video.